You're not my target audience, Mark. You have trained your eye. You've been through the school of hard knocks. You set yourself up for that. We don't want to run out of grass. We know that it's more expensive to feed stored forage, especially during the growing season. It's a reality for winter. We got to have something up in storage, but yeah, it's cheaper to graze, and it's very stressful on us as farmers and also on the livestock if we're running out of grazing. This is a graph that's trying to show how grass growth rates change throughout the growing season. So just like you said, we have very rapid growth in the spring, so right through May and June. Many grazing managers call that the spring flush.
Where we can drill insulators.
All of our grasses, all of our cool season grasses that we tend to rely on for perennial pasture in Ontario, they will head out before the summer solstice, which was like 2 days ago. So all of your grasses have headed out, okay?
By smart place.
When grasses head out, they move into pollination, then they move into seed set. These are what we call the reproductive growth phases in a grass plant.
They're painful.
And so our growth rate slows down dramatically because that plant's not putting on a lot of leaf material and a lot of biomass at that point. It's just trying to set seed.
That's what he had.
And so after late June, as we get into July and August, part of why these growth rates slow down is physiological. That grass has hit biological maturity. It goes, great, job done. I can just hang out until I have to start putting on growth and storing energy to get ready to overwinter. The other reason is exactly as what was said. Our weather conditions in Ontario in the summer typically are hot and dry. We do get normally we get kind of every 2 weeks a thunderstorm rolls through, so that keeps things alive and keeps things functioning. But many of these grasses are native to very temperate European climates. So while they can survive hot, dry weather with periodic thunderstorms, their ideal conditions are kind of 15 to 25 degrees Celsius is when they grow the fastest. So by the time we're into summer, we're often hotter than that. And they would also love to have a nice gentle rain like today every 3 days. And we just don't get that in the summer. So this combination of plant maturity and weather are really what's driving what grazing managers often call the summer slump. And it's usually this period that we're trying to manage for when we're talking about not running out of grass. Now there's something about this graph that has always bothered me. Does anyone want to take a guess at what it is?
August?
It's not actually about the curve. It's not about the curve, although you're right, that is definitely a management challenge.
It's not staying vegetative very long.
Again, that is a challenge, and it is a management piece, but it's not actually a function of this graph. The thing that bothers me about this graph,
Winter kill?
there's no y-axis. How fast is fast? How slow is slow? Because as grazing managers, if we know what we have on hand, how many days grazing is ahead of us, and we know how fast it's growing and regrowing behind us, that gives us a lot more control and a lot more foresight to be able to manage to prevent running out of grass. So yeah, the physiology makes that hard, and the fact that grass growth rates and animal demand rarely align neatly, that makes it hard. But not knowing those, because I'm a bit of a data nerd, bugs me personally. So I have been working with some researchers at the University of Guelph and some colleagues of mine, and we've actually started tracking some grass growth rates. So this is not a lot of data. This is like 2 and up until the end of probably the first week of June level of data in here. This is the average across all 4 sites we were tracking. What's the main thing you notice about this graph?
Looks like a land market price graph.
It does. It does. I would say that it does not exactly mirror that trend. So like, just to give you context, because this x-axis is week of year instead of months. Week 17 is like middle of April. Week 44 is middle of October. So it's a very similar time scale to the first one. But you can see that instead of having the highest peak in the spring and then a low bit and then a bit of recovery, we've kind of got it all over. And when I actually break that out by year, so 2021 is the dark blue, 2022 is the orange, and 2023 only goes to about here because we're only just the end of June. But you can see that like there's a lot of variability all through there. And yes, some of that comes down to weather. But what we also noticed as we were collecting this growth and regrowth data is a lot of it came down to management. So how well we were able to keep grasses in the vegetative stage after that first heading out. They're always gonna head out once. We'll talk a little bit more about some of that grass physiology in a minute, but some of it was the management, some of it was weather, but management was a key. This is weekly growth rates. So it's not adding up how much grass is in the pasture. This is saying, okay, it's just like calculating average daily gains in young stock. So our cattle guys, you're used to thinking pounds per head per day, right? So, and our lamb producers, grams per head per day. But either way, it's the same kind of a measurement. You have an initial, how much weight is there, and you have another measurement at a later date, and you divide, or you find the difference and you divide by the number of days in between. So we did the same thing on our pasture. We measured how many pounds of dry matter per acre were on the pasture, and a week later we came back and measured that again and divided by 7, and these are the rates. So this is how fast it's growing, not how much is actually standing there.